Give it a spin. Your finger lands on a giant water serpent slithering over the stars. Spin it again, and your finger finds a winged horse soaring above the Milky Way. You spot a ravenous dog chasing a hare. And you watch on as a lion faces an angry crab. You are looking at the earth from God's eye, from outside, through the stars. The night sky is pulsing and living. Welcome to What's Your Map, an Oculi Mundi exploration. I'm Jerry Brotton, a map historian. In this podcast, we hear from those who live, love, and work with maps, making, preserving, interpreting, and being inspired by them. In each episode, we ask our guests to unfold a map that is special to them and to tell us the story that lies behind it. To follow the map as we talk about it on this podcast, go to oculi-mundi.com. The astronauts on the recent Artemis II mission witnessed something only a handful of people ever have. An Earth set, where the spherical Earth appears to set behind the cratered surface of the Moon. Astronaut Reid Wiseman compared this to watching the sunset at the beach from the most foreign seat in the cosmos. Today's guest captures the Earth as a complex three-dimensional sphere, something akin to what the crew of the Artemis II mission saw from space. Jonathan Wright is a master globemaker, specialising in the creation of bespoke globes and the conservation and restoration of historic and antique globes. His love for art, design, and scientific precision has converged into a career, and he is trained under some of the most skilled people in this field. Jonathan, welcome to What's Your Map? And you've kindly brought in something incredibly special, very beautiful and round today.
Thank you for having me. So this globe is a 12-inch celestial globe that dates from around 1810.
Yeah.
It's made by a Scottish firm of globe makers called Kirkwood Sons. And on it, we can see the constellations both depicted in their star form, but also illustrated in their pictorial forms as well.
And this is a celestial globe, and often they're produced alongside a terrestrial globe, but this one isn't. We're just talking about the celestial heavens, which is being depicted here. Tell me a bit more about what we know about it and who made it and when.
So we actually don't know that much about this particular globe. This appears to be the only surviving copy of this particular edition. Like you said, there would have been a terrestrial pair, but I haven't been able to locate the pairing for this either. So it's rather unique in itself. We can find globes that precede it and come afterwards, but this particular model, this is a one of a kind. This globe was produced by James Kirkwood Sons, which was a family-run business, initially specialising in the production of banknotes. So really they started off as an engravers. And then when James Kirkwood, his son, Robert, came to work for the family firm, he was trained as a cartographer and surveyor. And that's really when the transition from engraving to producing maps and globes began.
So when we look at this globe, what's its relationship to the sky above us and the stars that we see, Jonathan? Just explain that to me.
So with traditional star maps, you'll notice all the constellations and figures are oriented towards you. But on a celestial globe, you'll often find them with their backs turned towards you. This is because you're using them in quite a different way. So you're imagining the Earth at the centre of the globe, and then you're looking from outside of that and looking through the stars to see the constellations in reverse.
Give it a spin.
Let's give it a spin and have a look. I mean, we have Andromeda here, which is quite a lovely illustration. It also labels some of some particular stars in the night sky as well, which, again, wasn't that common at the time. We have various different notations, such as a Bayer notation here, but this was at a time when these star maps weren't standardized in any way, so this really incorporates a lot of different sort of scientific feeling of that time.
So is it a mixture of sort of classical and contemporary knowledge? I mean, how accurate is it?
Surprisingly accurate. The stars that are plotted are pretty accurately placed. What does change quite consistently throughout every celestial globe is how the constellations themselves are defined and their boundaries. This one does have your classical 44 constellations.
So how are they being used, Jonathan? I mean, are people using it for scientific purposes? Are they putting it in their drawing rooms to show off to their friends? How is it being used in the early 19th century?
I mean, this really sits at a different level to what we saw previously with globes, where they were these large statement pieces and kind of symbols of wealth and knowledge. Actually, this globe, this 12-inch globe, is relatively small. And this marks a period where really it became incorporated into the education system. So this wouldn't have been out of place in a classroom. Also, with the middle classes and sort of the gentleman scientists at home, it certainly wasn't a status object as we understand it today, but it is a symbol of learning and kind of an object that states you're part of that of that movement of scientific understanding and discovery.
It seems to have certain marks on it which suggest that it has a sort of practical element.
The globe itself has these various markations on, so you have obviously your lines of longitude and latitude marked on. You have your equatorial and ecliptical lines.
Tropic of Capricorn there.
And you'll see that actually the gauze, the segments of paper themselves, converge to a point which isn't the North or South Pole, it's slightly offset, which introduces this idea of a celestial equator, but also an ecliptical equator. In order to use this globe, you have to use it in combination with the meridian itself, so this brass ring that runs around the globe itself. You'll see that it's engraved with these graduated sections, which mark the various latitudes. And together with this printed horizon, which sits on the table and the stand of the globe, you can perform various calculations. When I was examining this globe, I noticed that actually a lot of the stars, a lot of the major stars had this unusual grey sooty deposit at the centres of them. It's hard to see in this light, but it's very visible under a microscope. And it sort of indicates that dividers had been used to trace off specific distances using the globe in a very practical way.
How fascinating. It's extraordinary. So, Jonathan, why is this globe so important to you?
This is a really special globe for me because it was actually the first globe I conserved as a professional conservator.
So, when you started your training, you're confronted with this. This must be both exciting and a little bit daunting.
Yeah, there's always a great sense of responsibility when you're looking at these old objects and faced with actually trying to bring them back to life. This globe was severely damaged. It had huge areas of loss and structural issues, but you could also appreciate the colouring that is we see here today. This is all original pigment that you're seeing on the globe surface, which is actually really quite vibrant.
Literally, take me inside the globe and what you start to do in that process of conservation.
Well, it's all about understanding how it was made and how it's come to be in the condition that it is today. So a lot of this is about understanding its construction, its materiality, but also a bit of the context in which it was created.
And how long does it take you to conserve a globe like this?
This was quite a large undertaking, so it took just under a year to conserve this.
How was it made? I'm fascinated. I love this idea of also almost what's inside it. It's like a chocolate egg. I want to know what's inside it and how they start to construct it. How do they do it, Jonathan?
Well, the construction really hasn't changed for 500 odd years. We're making them the same way they did 500 years ago. Essentially, what we have, or what you're seeing on the outside here, is printed paper, which contains the map itself.
And so these are these almond-shaped, what we call gauze, G-O-R-E-S, gauze.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's 12 of these on this globe itself. We call these split gauze because they're cut through the equator and joined there.
Oh, I see, yeah. So these are pasted on, aren't they? I think I love gauze. I'm obsessed with gauze. I think it's so fascinating that you have to have them shaped, of course, like this because you're pasting them on to a sphere. I just think these are wild. I love these. I love the 16th century ones that you have the early maps of the New World of the Americas, the Waldseemüller map. And the map comes with printed gauze. You can make your own globe. I think they're just brilliant. I just think they're amazing. So so you have these almond-shaped gauze that you paste on, as it were, to your globe. Sorry, go on. I'm getting too excited. Tell me more.
No, yes. These actually have a split through the middle here, you might notice, just here.
Yeah.
That helps with the geometry and the making process because, as you can imagine, trying to fit these gauze across the surface of a sphere involves physically stretching and manipulating them into place with exact precision.
Right.
So the printed gauze you're starting off with are already a distortion.
Yeah, they have to be, don't they? So you can't, I think this is, again, what I love so much. You can't just print them, as it were, on a two-dimensional surface. They have to actually mimic curvature of a sphere.
Yeah, and you fundamental to that is an understanding of how the material that the gauze are printed onto will behave. If you don't do that, you could print a set of gauze quite successfully on cotton rag paper to create a globe and then switch to another type of paper and you would never be able to create a globe in the end.
Which is why they needed to be skilled engravers and know about the tradition of how to do that, to actually paste them onto the sphere. Tell me about the materials. So what are the gauze printed on and what's inside the globe?
This globe's quite special because of the Kirkwoods' background in producing banknotes. This paper is actually a banknote paper as well. It's got a very high linen content, which allows it to stretch, to move, and to form over the sphere itself. It's surprisingly thin. You could see light through it if you were to hold it up to the light. It's a wove paper as well. And then underneath this is the physical structure of the sphere itself. Here, the sphere is actually made of a plaster, or more accurately, British spheres were actually constructed with a mixture of chalk and animal glue mixed together.
Right.
You'd apply it warm to the outside of the surface.
Right.
And it would be turned within a semicircular form to sort of smooth off.
So did you take the whole thing apart?
I didn't take this globe apart, but the central wooden axis had been dislodged, so I did have to inspect and relocate that central pillar. But as part of that, I could see inside.
And what did you see?
Well, it's really quite fascinating when you look in any globe. This one in particular was made up of layers of old Catholic texts and...
What? It was made up of old Catholic texts? What?
Yeah. So you always find printer's waste, as we would call it, on the inside. But also within this, we have tax returns as well with handwritten letters. So being able to see that the handwriting of those people really gives you a sense of who made it, or a closer sense of who made it.
How amazing. So that's in the centre of the globe. Do we know why? Is it purely waste, or is there anything significant maybe that it was Catholic texts? Do the family business have any relationship to that? That is wild.
I suppose, at the time, it would be quite unusual for Scottish presses to be producing Catholic texts. Yeah. So I couldn't be certain as to why.
And tax returns, that's brilliant. So it was just used to bulk out the globe. That's it. So could you just see inside? Could you take some of it out?
I could see inside. It was still pretty much intact inside, so I didn't want to disturb any of those layers.
How amazing. Who would have thought that religious texts and tax returns could be found inside a historic globe? It makes me wonder what other secrets they might hold. But before we hear more about Jonathan's specialist field of globe restoration and globe making, I'd love for you to join our global community of explorers by subscribing to this podcast. And subscribing means you won't miss a single new map, guest, or story from this series or the next. Now, back to hearing more about Jonathan's backstory. How did you get into this, making globes? I mean, it's such a specialised field. What's the backstory for you here?
I wish I had some romantic tale of dreaming of making globes as a child, but
surely not. Who does? I mean, are there many people who do that? But what got you into it? What was the story?
Well, I originally trained as a design engineer. And I think we were meant to go off and work for some big multinational company in industrial design. But I very much had an artistic practice as part of my dreams. So when it came to looking for a job, I had no idea what I wanted to do until I came across an advert for an apprentice globemaker. And I think my fascination came from really material and process understanding. It was that I couldn't work out how they were made. I couldn't understand from start to finish how to create a globe. And it really is that mixture of technical precision, of artistry, of physical making as well, that all have to come together in order to produce a beautiful, complete, perfect globe.
And presumably you need to take apart a globe and presumably an old globe to work out how you make a new one from scratch.
Every time I'm examining an old globe, I'm learning something new about how I'm going to make my next one.
I mean, you say something interesting. I came across you saying, beyond geography, globes reflect the interests, knowledge and aspirations of the people who made and used them. So it's a very interesting thing to say, Jonathan, because then obviously it begs the question I have to ask you, what do the globes you make say about you?
I hope they continue that tradition of precision and artistry and reflecting the world in which we live in a fair and measured way. There's quite a responsibility there. They're inherently political objects, so modern cartography is a difficult field to be operating in. I'm very glad that I am, and that I'm creating these objects which will hopefully be around for hundreds of more years and allow people to reflect upon the societies in which they were created today.
I mean, I get that sense from you, and also people tend to talk about maps often as political, ideological objects, and they are. But you look at something like this and there's a wonder in the world that we live in and the stars above us. There's a kind of amazing quality to that. So even if politics can co-opt these objects, there is something amazing, isn't there, I think, about doing this. As you say, that connection between art and science, precision, but also dreamlike qualities. I mean, they're very beautiful. I mean, I keep looking at this. It's just here on my left. I keep looking at the globe. They are incredible objects. And I mean, they're real statements of what we can achieve.
Yeah. And I think particularly relevant when at our fingertips we can access all the information, any map we like. Actually having a physical embodiment of that automatically gives it some credibility, it gives it some authority. And if it's a beautiful object as well, then all the better.
Is there a particular globe you've made that you're particularly proud of, that stands out for you in your career?
I've recently made a celestial globe, which was completely reimagined for the owner. So it involved plotting over 5,000 stars in their current positions. So it's really important to me that we continue that tradition, that the maps are as accurate as possible and they reflect our current understanding of the world. the constellations themselves were all reimagined and re-illustrated as elements to do with their interests. So this particular globe travels through the seasons as you traverse the celestial globe. So where the traditional zodiac runs around the globe, we travel through the seasons of British botanical flora and fauna. And it makes for a really beautiful exploration of the stars.
Wonderful. What's the most beautiful globe that you've either worked on or you just admire? I mean, I have my view on this. There are some of these globes are incredible. Is there any particular ones that you would point to and say, oh, maybe that you'd like to work on and you go, oh, they're amazing?
You can't talk about globes without thinking of Coronelli.
Coronelli, I thought you'd say Coronelli. Tell us a little bit about Coronelli. Who's Coronelli? Why are these globes so amazing? The sort of Stradivarius of globe makers.
Yeah, so Vincenzo Coronelli was an Italian monk. He was an astronomer, engraver, mathematician.
17th century, wasn't he?
17th century, yes, yeah. And yes, he was commissioned by Louis XIV, or rather one of Louis XIV's staff, to create a pair of globes which now sit in the Bibliothèque Nationale. And these are huge manuscript globes. So by manuscript globes, I mean the actual map itself, the terrestrial map and the celestial map, were painted directly onto the spheres. And they stand at over 3 meters in diameter. But my interest is possibly the globes that directly follow that, which is these reduced, just over 1 meter in diameter pair of globes, engraved in the traditional way onto copper plates, printed, but they're highly decorative, highly over the top, very Baroque Venetian in style, I suppose. Some might go as far as to say slightly gaudy. But to me, they're so highly decorative. The level of detail is incredible, but the artistry in the engraving just sets them aside from all other globes you might encounter.
Can you take the field forward? I mean, I'm wondering what's next for you. Where do you go in your work on globe making?
Most of the globes that I make now are really bespoke. So I suppose in the way that Coronelli was producing those globes for Louis XIV, personalised to him, the stars set in the position they were when he was born, we're able to now personalise globes in the same way to tell individual stories. So family histories, tracing really human impact on the world itself and the marks that we leave. I think it's ever more important now that the effects of humankind are so huge upon the world, our eroding coastlines, our melting polar ice, that we document this and have a physical, tangible record of it.
That really was part of my next question, which is why do you keep this craft alive? You know, one might say in a digital age, why do we need these globes? And you've, in a way, answered that, but I wonder if you could say a little bit more about why it is so important to still make globes like this.
To me, I have so much pleasure in actually making these objects. There's definitely an element of craft, of skill that I appreciate and I want to continue. I've been so privileged to be able to work on historic globes that I can trace that history, the history of knowledge, the understanding, the development of cartography, of geography through time, that I want to be part of continuing that story and that legacy so that future generations can look back and say, okay, you know, in the 21st century, people are still taking the time to make these objects, to record our understanding of the world in this physical form.
I'm curious, did the Artemis II expedition have any real resonance for you as a globe maker, because so much of it was pretty much about them talking about the whole Earth image and them looking back and the amazing, view that they had of the Earth. And that must have been, for a globe maker, something that resonated for you.
I know, it was incredible. I stayed up to watch the rocket launch itself.
Me too. I did too.
It was, a fantastic moment. And it really captured or brought back to life that awe that you experience when thinking of the world, of the globe, and of the universe. And actually, there is something quite special, the position we're in now, to be able to observe the Earth from a distance. And I think that plays on my mind when I'm creating new globes as to exactly what it is we now portray that we couldn't, say, 50 years ago, 100 years ago, 200 years ago.
Isn't that interesting? You are the first generation, I've just thought, that when those NASA whole Earth images first come back in 1973, they're the first time that we get the image that all of map making has been working on for thousands of years. So it all goes right back to Ptolemy and before, where you imagine what the world looks like from above. And it's only when those astronauts beam back those photos and they say, this is what it really looks like. And you're the first generation that has kind of inherited that moment. That's so interesting. And you're a globe maker.
Yes. I mean, it definitely inspires the work that I do. And I hope that's reflected in the aesthetic of the globes that I create.
I think it is. Jonathan Wright, it's been an absolute pleasure for you taking me around the globe, and thank you so much for bringing this beautiful object in, and thanks for joining me on What's Your Map?
Thank you. It's been a pleasure to talk to you.
I loved hearing how the Artemis II space mission resonated so deeply with Jonathan as a globe maker, and I'm very glad that he's keeping this traditional craft alive. Long may it continue. Thank you so much for listening. I'm Jerry Broughton, a map historian. This has been an Oculi Mundi exploration. The producer is Emily Uchida Finch, and it's a Whistledown production. Oculi Mundi is the online home of the Sunderland collection of antique maps and atlases. You can read more about the Sunderland collection and send suggestions for future maps to explore at oculi-mundi.com.